Louis XIV had numerous maladies and illnesses growing up. When he was a child, he had smallpox, which scarred his face. When he was a teen, he experienced several different skin issues, frequent diarrhea, and headaches. As an adult, his health issues continued with gout, the measles, rheumatism, and tumors. At one point, he had to have an extraction of one of his upper left teeth, and part of his maxilla was accidentally removed along with the tooth. For the rest of Louis's life, chewing was incredibly difficult, and because of this mistake, food would sometimes come out of his nose while he ate. In the Journal of the King's Health, on January 15, 1686, an entry was made. His Majesty today complained of a small tumor towards the perineum, approximately 2 finger breadths from the anus. Many treatments were attempted to cure the king of his issue. His physicians tried compresses. They also tried puncturing the abscess with a red-hot poker, as well as lancing it to let it drain. After it had drained, they attempted to dry the wound by putting another compress on it, as well as filling the area with different substances. On top of all of this, his doctors tried enemas, laxatives, called in an apothecary, tried leeches, as well as the letting of blood, all of which caused Louis an extreme amount of pain. The king would oftentimes have to change 2 or 3 times a day because the pus continued to leak from the abscesses. While all of this was going on, the king also began to have gout in his right foot, forcing him to stay in bed. Louis completely isolated himself in Versailles. He stopped riding horses, and if he was ever seen in the gardens, he was sitting in a large sedan. By May 21st of 1686, Louis's physician finally diagnosed him with a fistula, and the possibility of surgery was discussed. A barber surgeon by the name of Charles-François Félix was called in to examine the king. Félix had never performed the surgery before and suggested to the king that he needed to practice and that he needed to study anatomy in more depth and perfect the proper technique so that everything would be successful. The surgery was planned in the utmost secrecy. Over the next few months, Félix did indeed practice on approximately 75 different people, some of which have been rumored to have died in the process. Félix also developed special instruments that would be used for the surgery called the Royal Probe. On the 18th of November, 1686, at 7 a.m., Louis XIV was taken to the antechamber of his bedroom along with 2 doctors, 4 apothecaries, and Félix. The men had all arrived 2 hours earlier and had entered in different doors so no one would be suspicious. Louis was placed on the bed with a pillow beneath his stomach, while his thighs were spread and held by 2 apothecaries. The surgery took 3 hours and no anesthesia was used. It was written down that the king barely uttered a word throughout the whole procedure. The surgery was ultimately a success. Félix received a title, a palace, and a great fortune. The title of surgeon became equal to that of physician in Louis XIV's court. Medicine and surgery changed forever. The procedure also oddly became quite fashionable. As with anything in Versailles, if the king did it, everyone else wanted to too. Courtiers began requesting the surgery whether they had fistulas or not.